What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I'm Ronan Gaine. Joining me, as always, Chris Nambu. Thank you so much for making this podcast your first listen for NBA coverage. Remember, you're on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You're on Apple Podcasts, you're on Spotify. Make sure you subscribe, leave that 5-star review. You do that, we'll keep producing that content. On today's episode, we're going to be discussing the Cleveland Cavaliers. Finally saw their first defeat of the season last night against the Boston Celtics, but was that a sign of things to come, or just a little litmus test of moving forward? We'll also be giving a shout out to some of the guys that have been dominating around the league. We'll be taking a check in on the rookie class of 2024. We also need to talk about Luka Doncic. Things aren't going so well this year, and we'll finish it out with a couple of trade rumors that we find very, very interesting. But before we get into it, Chris, how you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. We were able to catch the Celtics game last night. Um, just basically get a view of what this championship potential contender is going to look like against the defending champs. And I just want to jump straight into that, man. Let's talk about what we saw last night. And first of all, I think it's quickly forgotten that these two faced off in the playoffs last year. I mean, this was a matchup that already happened, albeit Mobley looks different this year, and they're actually healthy this year. So now that we got a little bit of some changes from last year to this year, like how do we feel about the Cavs and rating their success over the past 15 games and comparing to what we just saw against Celtics?
Yeah, I mean, like early days, I guess up until the half, it kind of looked like the Celtics are exposing the Cavs' biggest flaw and not letting the Cavs get to their biggest strengths in any way, shape, or form, because the Celtics were just shooting the lights out from three, not letting the Cavs get any decent looks from deep, and just making it really hard for them to score. And it looked like it was going to be a blowout. But the Cavs kept the head down. The defense stepped up. They started making plays. They did a great job, especially in that third quarter, of exposing the switchy defense of the Celtics by getting Mobley a lot of looks where he was being guarded by the likes of Pritchard and Holiday and just guys who are way too small to be guarding him. He took great advantage of that. I think he ended up with like 14 in the third quarter. That really helped spark that comeback that got them to within. I think they got as close as 2 points. Celtics ultimately always had an answer, but I was really impressed with the way that Cleveland just kept doing their thing. They found a way to get more stops. They found a way to just show that little bit of grittiness to get back into the game. Didn't ultimately get the win, but I think on a normal night they probably win that game, because I think Darius Garland had an absolutely appalling game
Yeah,
from shooting the ball. 3 of 21 for just
yeah.
8 points. Like, that is something you're not going to see every day from him. Like you mentioned to me last night, Donovan Mitchell, obviously he let the team off the hook, the Celtics off the hook a little bit with some of the shots, the difficult shots he was taking, rather than going to work inside and getting to the rim. So I think the Cavs will feel very, very good about that first meetup with the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, they asked Mobley about it after the game, and I thought he had really good insight on it that, his takeaway is we can beat anyone in this league. And I think that that's kind of the right way to look at it, that they were close. And I think that you look at the physicality of the game, that is one thing that I would take away that maybe is a not a concern, but a different approach to the game. That I think the Celtics were able to continue being physical and continue getting downhill and continue being physical on the perimeter, especially. And I think that's something that we've classically been a little bit worried about with Garland is, can he handle that level of physicality defensively, especially against the Celtics? Because we forget how big the Celtics are. Like, no, they're not necessarily huge in the front court like the Cavs are. But in terms of on the perimeter, like Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jason Tate, like the guys that they can put on your guards are going to pester them constantly. And credit to, I mean, the Cavs guards, for instance, I just want to give a shout out to Sam Merrill, first of all, because I think the Celtics game plan was like, if Sam Merrill is on the floor, we are going to post Drew Holiday up on him, and we're just going to make him a liability. And Sam Merrill had 2 blocks on Drew Holiday. And Garland even himself had a block from behind. I think it was on Brown or Tatum. But I mean, they competed, but I think the level of physicality that the guards on the Celtics side felt like that bothered Garland a little bit into his inefficient night.
Yeah. I think I'd agree there. That's it's going to be interesting to see moving forward. Is that something that he's able to overcome, learn to deal with better? Obviously, I think they face each other another three times throughout the season, so like he's got time to kind of get used to that. I think it's almost like a good thing that the win streak has come to an end in a sense, just because it's like okay, now that bubble has burst, so they're not just the
Yeah, you're not
undefeated team.
protecting this sort of
Yeah.
streak, you
And
know.
now it's about moving forward, continuing to do their thing. And I guess it's now it comes down to just can they really match the Boston Celtics for the number one seed? Because like you can make the argument in the Eastern Conference, these two teams have kind of almost separated themselves a little bit early as the only real two contenders to nab the number one seed, especially in the Eastern Conference. But that's kind of what we're looking at now. Is like we've seen them compete head to head. We've seen them start this 15-0 run. Now can they sustain that? Really challenge Boston for that number one seed? Because that's one thing at least that Eastern Conference teams could try to hurt the Celtics. Going back to the NBA Finals is not letting them have home advantage throughout the whole entire playoffs. That's literally one small thing that might make a tiny little bit of difference. Not saying it's the be all and end all, but it's definitely something the Cavs I think should have on their mind moving forward now.
Yeah, and I think the to think about where they stack up against the Celtics, not even just in the standings, but in terms of, hey, if we're going to be team one, team two, everything's got to go through the Celtics. I think it's very clear. There's no confusion on that. But I guess I want to think about the strengths of the Cavs for a second here. And it was the interior scoring. And I think in the third quarter, they really showed that. They pounded the paint. We saw all the playmaking from Mobley in the short roll, taking the ball at the court, initiating actions himself, even getting downhill on the Celtics, which has been hard. I think that was a hard point for them, is actually getting through that first line of defense. But there wasn't a lot of backline defense, like because there's no Porzingis. Um, and what is this matchup going to look like when KP is back is kind of the question. They play again on December 1st. Questionable whether or not KP's there. Probably not, honestly. Um, but I guess the burning question here is, yes, the Cavs had a hope here. And I think that there's a legitimate argument that, they could have won this game. Garland doesn't shoot that bad. Celtics ultimately are they always going to out 3-point shoot anyone they're playing against. But if Kristaps Porzingis is there, do does that just take this to a whole nother level? And
Yeah.
you know,
It does. It does.
you know,
That's the whole thing. Like we say with Boston, they can win without Porzingis, but with him, they're pretty much unbeatable.
yeah. I imagine, what this looks like when in the minutes when you're staggering Horford and staggering Porzingis. I mean, at times, I mean, we need to stop there real quick. Al Horford, I mean, dude he doesn't age.
Yeah.
And it was actually talking to Tim last night about Horford, and we were just thinking about when the Celtics traded for Horford. What is it, 4 years now ago? 3, 4 years ago? From the Thunder. He hadn't played in like a year and a half. And at that point, it's like, what does he even have left to offer this team? Is he going to be kind of like a locker room leader? Is he going to be kind of nice on the boards, just offer some size? He has continued to be a modern big for them, and across the NBA, probably one of the better ones. And it just hasn't ended. And just the shots he was hitting last night, the timeliness of his play is just always there, always choosing the right moments. Like the game flows so well through him when he's on the floor, and it's such a wonder to watch. Um, but
What's even so funny is that they had him and he was great for them, and then he went to Philly and he didn't look great at all, and then somehow he managed to get back into Boston and then looks amazing again.
he sabotaged the 76ers.
He's
But
yeah, he's just a very, very, very impressive player. He just does everything so well. He's not is he an amazing athlete? No. Is he the greatest shooter of all time? No. He just does everything so well. He fits in like a glove within that team and just provides so much on both ends to a team, despite being 38 and what I think he's in year 18 now, something like that.
yeah, I mean, not the greatest shooter in the world, but I mean, dude went 4 for 5 from three on a
Yeah.
night where you needed to stretch out the Cavs bigs and get them out of the paint. And you weren't going to have the game that you had without having him shoot like that from the perimeter. I mean, Tatum had his points for sure. You had your moments from Derek White, who's still, I mean, him and Derek White, just the games that you have from them where they go off, it's just that you feel like the Celtics can't lose.
Yeah.
If any of their role guys start to hit shots, it's like they're not going to lose that game. That's what it feels like. Um, but we mentioned it real quick before with Donovan Mitchell. Um, there's definitely an evolving identity to this team where Evan Mobley's taking a bigger role, and they're getting to see, where they can get offense from. And it's not just pick and roll with Donovan Mitchell, Garland, and the bigs. It's not just high low, but you get some more inverted pick and rolls. You get more cutting, and I feel like we reverted a little bit to Donovan Mitchell hero ball last night, and it's hard to criticize it because he hits those shots. If the ball moves a centimeter to the left, goes in, they're tied overtime. Maybe they win. Maybe they win in regular as well. But it felt like they got away from the offense in the third quarter that was getting them there, got them back in the game. And then it just felt like, okay, it's Donovan Mitchell's time. Let him take the shot. And it was just a lot of difficult step back, contested threes that, if there wasn't anything else to go to, sure, but it felt like that wasn't, it felt like it took away from the flow of the Cavs offense ultimately.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair, especially like you said in the fourth quarter. That's when we kind of really saw that. I mean, like I don't think Mobley didn't score in the fourth quarter. I'm not even sure we had a shot attempt in the fourth quarter. It was a lot of Donovan Mitchell, and usually that works. Usually that's an okay thing, but I think they just settled for that too quickly and went to that too often. I think it wasn't like they tried up a few different times and it led to turnovers or it led to block shots or things like that. They didn't really try the thing, and that was kind of the concerning part of it. It was just they just went to that without continuing to try what had got them back into the game in the first place. Obviously, that area is definitely disappointing, but obviously that's something you hope that they're going to learn from, and even maybe the next time they do it, they go to it. The shots probably fall for Donovan Mitchell because that's just the type of player that he is. That's the way that it could go for a player of his caliber. So a little bit worried about how quickly they went to that and how much they persisted with it. But on the whole, it's not like the biggest concern in the world. Like think about like him doing that, and then like in other situations, like think about that the Rockets and Bucks game last night. The Rockets really just needed one bucket to tie up the game or to secure the win. Back to back plays down the floor. Who's taking the shot? Dillon Brooks. Like, come on, Dillon Brooks is not the guy you want taking the shot when you
Uh,
just need to make a bucket. Two
that
times in a row they
wasn't
did
that
that.
game wasn't on the menu, but maybe fair to mention in a minute. But yeah, that was classic Dylan Brooks, truly. And I mean, again, I'm not going to stick on that, but the Rockets should have won that game. That's the second game, the last three that the Bucks got lucky with. They should have lost to the Hornets. They should have lost to the Rockets. They barely beat the Pistons off
Now
of
they
a
did lose to the Hornets.
no, 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 no. Oh, sorry. They lost to the Hornets. It was the Pistons. They
Yeah.
barely they should have lost to the Pistons. They did lose to the Hornets. Karma there, I suppose you should say. And then really should have lost to the Rockets.
Yeah.
Like Şengün just the ball just like fell off his hands. Maybe we'll talk about the Bucks in a minute. But I mean honestly, like you pointed out the glaringly obvious box score stat that Evan Mobley goes out for 14 points in 9.5, almost 10 minutes in the third quarter. Plays 8 minutes in the fourth, scores nothing, shoots zero shots. Jared Allen only had one dunk. So 2 points from the front court there in a game where they were taking over in the third in the paint. And I think that there's something to be said for that. I don't think that's the ideal outcome in terms of shot die, in terms of who you want taking shots, and it's something to look at moving forward. If teams can force Garland and Mitchell to play hero ball from the perimeter, then you're just losing Evan Mobley's talent, and you're losing what we've seen from him this season, seen from Kenny Atkinson's system, the ball movement that they get when they put the ball in Evan Mobley's hands. So I think end of the day we could say it was a hopeful outcome, but there's still room for improvement, especially against the top 10, tier talent in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely room to improve for Cleveland, but still good for like kind of first. You want to call it the first test? They've beaten some other good teams, but like kind of the first big Eastern Conference test, I guess that they come up against, and they came up just short. On the Celtics, quickly, 22 made 3 pointers last night. They have the same number of makes from two as they have from deep. They actually shot a better percentage from three, which just seems absolutely crazy. I don't want to call it an over reliance on the 3 points because that's not what it is. That's like that is their game plan, and it pretty much works. It's like we're going to shoot way better from three from you than you, and we're not going to let you get up the number of threes you need to be able to match us. But it's just interesting that they're shooting all these threes and they're making all these threes, but the games are still so tight. And I'm just wondering, is
Yeah.
this going to ultimately could this ultimately lead to their downfall? I don't think so because they still have to get Porzingis back, and that makes such a huge difference. But there's something in the back of my mind that the second they like lose like a couple of games in a row, or if they were to somehow lose in the playoffs, I'll instantly just go, "Yep, they shot too much threes." I'm just ready to just throw all that out there, even though it's working for them.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I mean, the general emotion of every Celtics game feels a little bit like that. There are the games where, their defense is just able to completely clamp down on the other team, and you just ultimately have a blowout. Then a lot of the games, there's so many swings because they're so reliant on the 3-point shooting. And once they're hot, they're hot. They go on like a 15-point run and they're in the lead. But then, like that you saw in the third quarter, when they're not hitting, they're just taking contested jumpers. Then it starts to feel like the game is slipping. And I feel like so many games like that where there's this like complete push and pull of, oh, we're gonna win this game. Oh shit, we're losing this game. We're falling away from us. Okay, we're back, and it's like there's never a consistent theme. It feels like, other than living and dying by the three. But dude, I mean, the rate that they shoot 51 threes a game, leading the league in 3-point rate. We can talk all day about all the shooters that they have, and the fact that they are constantly able to get 2 feet in the paint, kick it out, swing. Like it's not gonna stop. It's not going to stop. And I think they know that and they're comfortable with it. And they haven't let up. And this is just their identity now. And my question is, who's going to stop them from doing it? You know, who's going to stop them? Nobody. Nobody has shown the ability to reduce their 3-point rate. No, nobody's cracked that code yet. And it is a regular season, so things may change in the playoffs, but didn't change last year. And I think all that to say, it's inevitable.
Yeah, yeah. No. That's definitely fair. It's still just scary to think that they still don't have Porzingis in this lineup. So when like he comes back, and if he's healthy, I guess obviously he comes back. I think like he's slowly getting into training in that. So I think I guess we're looking maybe mid-December to see when he's going back because obviously they're in no rush to bring him back. So I'm thinking something around like mid-December, and then if he's up to pace by what like even takes him 3-4 weeks to get back up to pace, and then if he's good to go from there, like it's so hard to see the Celtics not just romping again all the way to at least the finals, if not the title as a whole, which is just a scary, scary thought. But anything else, or any of the other NBA Cup games that sparked your interest? There's a few interesting games last night. I mean, the Spurs without Wemby, without Vassell, um, they looked great. CP3 turning back the clock. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. OKC were throwing up a hell of a lot of bricks last night, but huge win for the Spurs.
Yeah, that's I mean, I don't think anyone could have bet on that.
No,
Who
no, you
how
would have
how
got
much
decent odds,
money
I
would you have
think.
left there?
Yeah, I mean that would have been that would have been a good one right there. But yeah, it's great. It's cool. It's fun watching CP3 again. Like he had a few lovely. I think he had 5 threes in the end, and like there were some nice plays that he made, and obviously he's still dishing like a god as well. He was great. That was a fun game, and then other games obviously Knecht 4 was at it. He went absolutely off late against Utah. We can get into him a bit more later when we talk some of the rookies, but he was obviously huge
Hmm.
for the Lakers last night. I think he hit 6 straight threes, and the blip in that was 3 free throws after getting fouled when taking a three. Like he got red hot from deep to ultimately close out the win for the Lakers. Although they tried to get a little bit of fun with it. One
I
game we gonna have. You gotta go.
I mean, I don't want to miss out on the Nets and Hornets, who I'm sure everybody watched. I'm sure everybody was watching the Nets Hornets. But Trey Mann, everyone look up this dunk. If you have not seen it, Trey Mann, I think, had the dunk of the year last night on Noah Clowney. I mean, he pulled a Vince Carter. And I mean, if you watch Trey Mann, I mean, he's a quick guard. He's known for his shooting, known for kind of his nifty play. I did not know his game like that. I did not know he was gonna tomahawk off 2 feet over a big. That was not. I did not realize that was in his bag. But Trey Man, I see you. That was a ridiculous dunk. And Hornets and Nets. That was a fun game. That was a fun game.
Yeah, that's what you want to see. It's like two teams that don't really care if they win or lose. They're just happy to be competitive, and it showed on the floor, and it was obviously a really entertaining game.
And this is actually one point, one interesting point. Charles Lee, you head coach for the Hornets. It seemed like it's been a great match. Seems like the Hornets have really embraced his leadership. But closing lineups. Last night,
Mhm.
LaMelo Ball was benched
Yeah.
in the last, what, 5 minutes of the game. Checked in, was not competing on defense like Charles Lee wanted, pulled him out, sat down. I mean, LaMelo's body language with it was good. Like he didn't look visibly upset. He didn't sulk. He was clapping on his teammates. He was vocal. So, I mean, kudos to him. But very, very interesting that, he benched his star and he wasn't going to just like treat him like a baby. He was going to treat him like an NBA player. Like, hey, if you're not competing out there, you're not doing what we need you to do defensively. You're gonna be out there. He closed with Brandon Miller.
Yeah.
Brandon Miller led that team. He closed with Cody Martin. So very interesting to see that, and I think it's a small little piece to the puzzle in terms of building a culture there in Charlotte with all the talent that they have that they're trying to get with this new head coach. So hats off to them. They don't get the dub, but I think little moments like that are what they can build on to, create a competitive culture.
Yeah, and obviously bigger news. Ben Simmons actually had a double-digit scoring game. My God, the
Dude,
man,
I
the
mean,
man
he
is
had 4 points
back.
in a row. When's the last time he had back-to-back buckets? Someone look
I
that
don't
up.
know, but I mean, we saw that hook shot that he tried in the first quarter, right? That was pretty bad. I mean, I was at the Knicks game on Sunday and watching Ben Simmons, and I just texted you. It was actually just sad watching him close up
Hmm.
because it was just everything about it was just such hard work and everything was just so off. And I mean, like, good for him. Can he get back to doing that with some sort of regularity? That would be a huge deal for the Brooklyn Nets. Touching on a few of the other games, obviously the Nuggets finally get a win without Jokic taking on the very injured Grizzlies, but they're able to come out with the W there. Then we have the Mavericks dominate the
Trouncing?
Pelicans, which is
Trouncing?
good,
Is that a
which
word?
is what they should be doing. The Pelicans are extremely injured. The Mavs need to start showing up. They need to start showing their qualities. Obviously, it's good to get a big point differential win after losing their opening game to the Warriors in the NBA Cup. The Mavs, we got to talk about them. Well, we don't really have to talk about the Mavs. We got to talk about one guy, and that's Luka Doncic.
Do we do this now? We do this
Yeah,
now?
we're
All
doing this
right.
now.
Okay. Here's the question, because I think this is we know about Luka's defense, we know about his lack of effort, and I think this is kind of the season where it's become cemented. This isn't a young Luka Doncic anymore. He's now been in the league long enough for us to kind of say this is who he is. I don't think that's unfair. And just to not to walk around it, but just like the level of um disrespect I feel like he shows to the game at times, with just the complaining, with the toxic attitude to his teammates on the court. I can't speak to off the court. I'm not there, but it's pretty obvious if you were watching the game. It's pretty obvious that Luka misses an assignment, blames someone else. Someone
Mm-hmm.
gets a layup at the rim, and he's in no man's land. He looks around, hands in the air. Bad, bad, bad body language all the time on defense. Um, and he's just such a savant and so talented on the offensive end that it's just excused at times. Um, and fine, that as an organization, like how much of that naturally do you have to deal with because you have such a talented player and like you just have to kind of cater to that. I mean, maybe that's some team's approach and that's what you just have to do. But where do we ultimately have to rank Luka Doncic as a complete basketball player when we have these conversations about top 10? I'm not I don't love the top 10 conversations,
Mm-hmm.
but I think they're important. They're important how we view the game and like, just conversationally, like who we view as the best. And in highlight culture that we've, established in the Twitter days, social media days, Luka Doncic is definitely the second most talented offensive player in the world. First, second, I don't know where you put him there. But this year, uh, I think it's time to have the conversation about where he truly is in the top 10. If he's, I mean, does he deserve, what conversation does he deserve to be in when this is the level of effort we get from him on the other end, where he is just a zero, a complete zero on that end, like Trey Young level bad.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually kind of wild when you look at like in terms of him as like an individual defender. These are where kind of the stats don't always back up the performance because look at like Luka as an individual defender. He's fourth in defensive rating among starting guards in the NBA, and he's 10th among
I'll
starting guards
look at lineups.
in
I'll
defensive
look at
win share.
lineups.
So like it's just funny that if you actually like look at him as an individual defender and you look at the stats and you actually think, oh, he's actually pretty passable. He's actually almost good. But
Yes.
then you actually watch games of basketball and you're like, this guy is doing nothing out there. He's offering so little on the defensive end. You just look and you just all you see him is with hands thrown in the air, just general lazy play. Like that game against the Jazz, that final play, that's just everything you need to see about Luka Doncic when it comes to the defensive end. Like that was just absolutely appalling. And why are we noticing this even more so this year? Because the offensive game is not where it should be. The offensive game is not at the top of the league like it usually is, and that's why we're noticing the defense even more. The Mavs are only 8-7. They've had a pretty tough start, and Luka has been a catalyst in that tough start. Still averaging what 28.1 points per game, 7.6 boards, 7.6 assists, but that's nearly 6 points fewer than last season. That's nearly 2.5 fewer assists. He shot 49% from the field, 38% from three last year. He's down to 43% and 32% this year. Like those are big drop offs for a guy that we expected to go out and have a big year. He's ninth in scoring, eighth in assists, 15th in 3 pointers made per game. His ranks last year, first, third, and second. He is not playing at the level that he was at last year. That could still change, but we've seen the likes of Anthony Davis, Jason Tatum, Nikola Jokic, three guys that he wants to be in the conversations when it comes to the best players in the league. They've all raised their games to begin the year. Doncic has gone the other way. And the thing I think it comes back to is conditioning. Conditioning is so important for a guy like Luka Doncic. And I think the perfect example of that is Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
The whole story of Jokic, we all know. Dude hates training. Dude hates to work on his body. Dude barely cares about basketball. He just goes out there. He's just that good. He just goes out there and does his thing. But you look at like the first 5 seasons of Jokic in the NBA, numbers 17 points, 9.6 boards, 5.5 assists, 2 All-Stars, 2 All-NBA. Then the penny sort of dropped. He actually got into some decent shape, not anything amazing, but significantly better, I think, over the last 4 years compared to the first 5 years in the NBA. And then he's done all there is to do. 26, 12, and 9, NBA champion, finals MVP, 3-time MVP. Absolutely best player in the world. And it come down to conditioning. He got himself into better shape, and Luka has to do the same thing. That penny has to drop with Luka, or he's never going to achieve what he's meant to achieve in this league. He's never going to be able to be a passable defender. Because let's not forget, Nikola Jokic is a bad defender as well. Don't get me wrong. Denver have had to bring in the right players to make him less of a liability there, but he's been able to work hard, and he's able to do more because he's in better shape. Luka needs to get into better shape because he has all the talent. Conditioning is the thing with Luka Doncic. The penny needs to drop on him that he has to get into better shape if he wants to compete consistently and do it. At least not be a complete and total minus on the defensive end and continue to year on year be the best offensive player in the league.
It's not going to happen, I don't think. It would have happened this season. It would have happened this season. They made it to the finals last year. It's glaringly obvious that his level of defensive effort and his level of conditioning was going to be a major X factor for the Mavs. They fell short against the Celtics, and I think one could wonder if Luka's effort was able to elevate on both ends. If that happened, what chance would they have had? And if it's not going to change after you make it to the finals, you get that close, but you're clearly a level below in terms of your physical ability to compete over the long run. I mean, you could say, oh, he's injured. Okay, well, how much of the injury is also like being in shape? I mean,
Yeah.
that's also a personal responsibility. And
Hmm.
I want to push back on the Jokic thing, because like I think, I mean, athleticism is, he's not high flying dunks. He's not crazy fast. He's kind of going the same speed all game. But that's the point. He's going the same speed all game. He's fourth in minutes per game in the entire NBA. Who's above him? Mikal Bridges, Kevin Durant, we'll get to him in a second, and Tyrese Maxey. Two out of those four are injured. Jokic is welcoming a baby girl. Congrats to him into the world. So, I mean, dude is probably one of the most, if not the most conditioned star in the league, just the amount of minutes that he's putting in. I'd say Fox and Edwards, both guys who are a little bit below him, but Jokic, 38 minutes a game. Um, I mean, dude is the example to live by when it comes to, hey, you're not the most athletic guy, but can you just go full speed? Can you be in the right positions?
Yeah.
Jokic isn't always in the right position. He's always in the right position, and he uses his skill well to get deflections, to put a body in the way, use verticality. You're not going to move him out of the way, but he's going to be in the right spot in the drop. And I think that it's clear that Luka doesn't want to. When is he going to want to? And that's on Jason Kidd. That's on Jason Kidd to get that out of him ultimately.
Maybe drop his usage a bit as well. Because obviously he's the highest, I think he's the highest usage guy in the NBA this year. Maybe he's definitely in the top three anyway. And you think of someone like Jokic, who when you're actually watching the games, it feels like he's got the ball all the time, but he's actually down there. I think him and Brunson are about 17th and 18th. And it's funny because when you actually watch Denver games or Knicks games, it feels like the ball's always in their hands. But it's actually not. Maybe that's an area that the Mavs need to try and push a bit more. The having the ball in Kyrie's hand as more of an initiator. I know that's obviously something that Luka probably doesn't want either, but they're going to have to do something to get more out of him. They're like if he's not going to do it himself, he is their guy and he is still uber talented. We're not going to be saying the Mavs need to trade Luka Doncic or anything like that, but they're going to have to try certain things to try and get more out of him on both ends and to make him just that more of an efficient player.
Yeah. And I want to not forget what we meant. We mentioned minutes. We mentioned a couple guys. We mentioned Maxey, mentioned Durant. I want to mention real quick in terms of the Suns and Durant. We talked about the Suns real quick a couple weeks ago, how things have changed for them. Things felt like they're on the up, especially with Beal and the role he's accepted. Sun sliding a little bit. I don't want to forget to mention this, but I think it's insane that they were relying so much on Kevin Durant. That Kevin Durant is out, another calf strain. This is kind of what we come to expect. He's going to get a calf strain pretty much every season, and they're going to need to keep him out for some time. And the fact that was kind of a given for him, and the fact that he's playing third most minutes in the NBA, 38 minutes, that is mismanagement to a fault.
Yeah.
Minutes mismanagement to a fault. And I think it's also pretty damning that they're not able to survive without him on both ends of the ball. I mean, that both ends of the ball have plummeted. They sorely miss his rim presence. They sorely miss his shooting on the other end. And I mean, I guess it's to be expected when you're so top heavy that you lose your best guy that you're going to sink. But I think you also got to look at the rest of the roster, and it's fair to say that where are they going to get the rest of this offense from? You can't just rely on Kevin Durant. Bud can't do it all by himself. And yes, Beal is a little bit hurt right now, but you'd expect Bud to put out a little bit better.
Yeah, and I mean Beal's been a bit banged up throughout this spell that Durant has been out too, which is obviously leading to them losing some more games, I guess. And Booker hasn't been great either. He's been a bit hit and miss. He's like one game he's hot, next game he's cold, and like that's going to hurt them, especially like that's going to be bad when they are at full strength. It's going to be even worse when they don't have Durant or Beal to kind of pick up the slack there. And like obviously, you got to try and be careful with Durant, but he was just playing such good basketball that I mean, you're still paying him top dollar money. I mean, you're going to have to use him while he's absolutely dominating, and he's the guy who's the difference between you winning and losing games. So I mean, I guess maybe you should knock back his minutes a little bit, but I can understand why he was going so gung heavy because this is a new coach. He wants to have a great start, and he's doing it in the right way because Kevin Durant was playing some of the best basketball he's played in a long time, and he was absolutely dominating in the clutch. They needed him. They needed him out there so badly. So I think I get it, but hopefully it is kind of like a wake up call. Now when he gets back, they'll have a better plan in place.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to manage minutes. It is, and especially when you don't have any replacement for Kevin Durant. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not up by a lot and you need to win a game, then are you going to sit him? But I think you also got to think about the miles, and like they got to consider, how many games are going to lose if Kevin Durant misses 10 straight games? How many of those
Yeah.
games are we going to lose?
Mm.
More than half of them? Like, do we have a chance to incorporate um, some other rotations to make this make sense without Kevin Durant playing so much? But I mean, he's out, and you look at Maxey. I mean, Maxey had to deal with the whole load in Philadelphia. He's out for how long? Could be mid-December. Hopefully it's not going to be like a Tyrese Halliburton issue where he comes back and that hamstring
Lingering,
strain
yeah.
is still lingering. That's going to be a damning end to their season if he's not able to get back to what he was last season. But
Hamstrings are just so tough. Hamstrings are so tough.
yeah,
If it's not right, you can't just like play through that. If your hamstring is not right, you're gonna be feeling it, and it's just gonna affect your game all the way through.
yeah. Silver lining though, because we want to talk a little about rookies. Tyrese Maxey being out gives the opportunity for Jared McCain to start. As a starter in 3 games, he is averaging a smoldering 27.7 points on 47% from three, 51% from the field. A lot of these pull up mid rangers, not just his 3 point shot. It's not just spotting up, and he's doing it on volume. Dude, he's shooting almost 20 shots a game in those 3 games. And they just absolutely need him on the floor because no one else seems to be interested in playing good basketball on that team. Oh, and by the way, he's
Or
having
just playing basketball full stop.
or playing at all. 6 assists to 1.7 turnovers. Maybe he could be the best playmaker on this team already as a young rookie. But super impressed from Jed McCain. Wasn't expecting it this early, but I think it'll be huge to see him get extended run with Maxey being out, and if they can incorporate him into the rotation when Maxey is back and have him be really that bench spark plug with less volume, like that would be huge. They really need him more than I thought that they would this season.
Yeah, for sure. And kudos on that transition into this. That was really beautiful the way you
Yeah,
transitioned
yeah,
into this. That was
yeah,
nice. Good work.
yeah.
But yeah, Jared McCain, he's looked absolutely great. Like he was a guy that we really thought could be an instant spark plug for the 76ers team. And it wasn't really looking like it. First few weeks he wasn't really getting much shot, but then the
Yeah,
injuries
I'll give you
came.
credit for that. I didn't think that. I thought it would be maybe next season, end of this season. I didn't think he was NBA ready in terms of physicality and just ready to shoot at the NBA level. But I think you called that. I'll give you full credit.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something about him that just made you believe that he could do it, and like especially in like what I guess I expected it in a different way. I was expecting him to be able to thrive in what was going to be a winning Philadelphia team. That was going to be a
Yeah,
team that are up the top of the Eastern Conference. So I didn't expect it in the way that it's come, but I'm glad to have seen it. And I slipped him in nicely into my fantasy team. He's done great things for me there too, which is obviously is always a big plus as well. But he's just doing all the good things, and I think the playmaking has probably arguably been the most impressive thing to
hmm
see from him, and what he's done, and like that's a role they need within this Philadelphia team. Like you said, like he could already be the best playmaker on this team, and that's something that they definitely need, and it's going to be great watching him moving forward. That's one good thing that comes with injuries when you get the chance to see these young guys get their shot and go and take it.
yeah. He, I didn't think that you were going to insert a 19-year-old rookie, 19, 20. I think he turned 20 this year, um, and give him 20 shots a game and expect him to on this volume shoot as well as he has and expect him to play make this much and not be turning the ball over like that. I think that's the part that's really impressive, giving them volume and seeing what he's done with it. Um, Now, an interesting thing about volume for rookies is sometimes more volume, like there's diminishing returns. Like you're getting too much on their plate. They're going to turn the ball over more. They're going to be less efficient. And maybe you're not getting the right system. But for some shooters like rookie Dalton Knecht, it's complete opposite. You need to get in a rhythm. And why did they get JJ Redick in there? They needed their offense to modernize. They needed to get more in a rhythm. And interestingly enough, when Dalton Knecht, he's playing 20 or more minutes, he's shooting 53.1% on threes. When he plays less, shooting 31.6% from three. And as a starter in 4 games, he's averaging 20 points per game on 51% beyond the arc. These are unsustainable numbers, but exactly what they needed from this rookie. Another guy who I think more people are expecting to have this role, but can he be the catalyst for the flashes of Lakers offense we saw a little bit earlier in the season that we thought would carry them to a playoff performance at the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean this is like every Lakers fan is just like, my God, we finally found him. We didn't have to trade for a guy. We actually got a guy in the draft that we've
Yeah.
desperately needed for the last 3, 4 years. We finally got him, and he looks like the part. He's going to be that spark plug shooter, that spark plug scorer. He has been great over the last few games. His role has been so crucial. His shooting has made the difference. Like that game last week against the Memphis Grizzlies, the Lakers were flailing. He made some huge buckets to keep them in it. They ultimately got the win. Last night against Utah, he obviously went absolutely insane to end the third and begin the fourth, and that got them to win there. Obviously, he had them up 25. They ultimately only won by 6 points, which obviously goes back again to their struggles on defense.
Yeah.
But what he brings to them offensively is so, so important. And as a rookie, everyone kind of talked about it. He was kind of felt like the guy who was the most ready. And we're starting to see that now. So you can believe that, yeah, the volume is not going to continue, but we can continue to be a 40% 3-point shooter, continue to be a guy who hits big shots and makes scoring and winning plays when he's on the court. That's going to make such a big difference to the Lakers moving forward.
Yeah, and one guy who I think could make a big difference here, Jared Vanderbilt, who I'm not sure when he's set to return, which I'm trying to see here. It's so hard. I feel like he's just constantly out. He's constantly
He's
day
been
to
out
day for the
forever.
last year.
Yeah, he's
But
been out forever.
he could. It was hard to get him minutes on the floor last year when the shooting was a question. You can't have too many non-shooters out there alongside LeBron. But I mean, if Dalton Knecht is going to emerge as a volume 3-point shooter, the lineups that you could unlock them with him on the floor and allowing Vando to get back on the pine. I mean, dude, he would fix a lot of their defensive issues. He would fix a lot, especially in the open court. He's a guy that's going to really run in the open court and prevent a lot of easy baskets that the Lakers are giving up. But work in progress. AD's still playing well. It's around the Lakers. I mean, did we know he's shooting 43% from three?
AD.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
I saw that this morning and I was like, that's an impossible stat. That can't be. Still
Wow.
still not shooting great from the mid-range like we'd like him to, but on 2.3 shots, 43% from three.
Yeah, I mean, all I ever wanted is just get back to 2020 levels where it was 33%, but he was on one make per game, and teams just had to respect him shooting the three ball. That's all I ever wanted AD to get back to.
Yeah. I want to talk about a couple other guys dealing with a little more high volume. Let's talk about the players of the week real quick. Got to give a shout out to De'Aaron Fox, who in 2 games scored over 110 points, 60 points against the Jazz. I feel like the Jazz are just giving up career highs to everybody this year.
For correction, he was just under 110 points.
Just under?
110 points was the record by Kobe. He did it in back-to-back games, and he got 109. He finished 1 point short.
Yes, 1 point short. I was trying to give him a little bit too much there. But De'Aaron Fox, I mean, the guy I think still this year is leveling up his offensive game. De'Aaron Fox is going to continue to get better. But even more exciting, Franz Wagner, Eastern Conference Player of the Year, of the week.
Of the year.
Well, are we speaking too soon? But for a few games, we see the Magic kind of flounder a little bit without Paolo Banchero. Just difficult to find their offense, honestly. Who are you going to run through? More injuries piling on for them. But in the 10 games that Paolo's been out, he's been averaging 25.4 points, 6.2 rebounds, 5.8 assists. I mean, the efficiency is still tough. I mean, he's shooting over 20 shots a game in 6 out of the 10 games he's been taking. But with that level of responsibility, he's produced, and he's been really the fulcrum of this offense and shown that, like, he can take on an NBA offense, and he can run pick and roll. He can run your sets. He can attack the paint, and he's been a willing shooter from three this year. It's not, it's still sub 35. You want to see it get a little bit better there, but I mean, I think he's really shown that he's taken a step forward this season.
Yeah, I think the Magic have won 6 straight games now. They got the third best record in the Eastern Conference, which obviously we didn't see happening. We kind of saw them flailing when Paolo initially went down. And now it's going to kind of, it might turn around and look like this maybe was the best thing that could have happened to Orlando, especially once Paolo's back. I think probably another couple of weeks before he's back. I think it was the initial estimate was 4 to 6 weeks. So I think it's been about 3 or 4 at this stage. So I think it's still a little bit of time to go, but I think this is what Franz Wagner needed to kind of get out of that funk that he fell into last season, and that continued into the Olympics and sort of continued into the start of this season. But over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, he's kind of got out of that and kind of started to look again like the guy who deserves the max contract that he got in the offseason, who looks like he's a legitimate second star, a legitimate partner in crime for Paolo Banchero in leading this Orlando team forward. So it's kind of funny. You talk about the silver linings of injuries. This could be a silver lining for the Orlando Magic, that they just needed to put this pressure on Franz to get him back in the groove.
Guy who's not been in the groove and has gone totally under the radar, and I think it's a little unfair that he has, is KCP.
Yeah,
Making
he's
20
been
million a year.
struggling. Yeah.
The guy has not exceeded double digits. He's not hit double digits more than twice in every game he's played this year. He hasn't missed a game. He's shooting 38% from the field, 28% from three. He hasn't hit more than 2 threes a game in a single game. This is the guy that Denver got destroyed for not re-signing, like for months, like for 2 months straight. Like every other podcast article was like, wow, like the Nuggets don't care about winning anymore, I guess. Nuggets don't care about Jokic. Wow, they've really done him dirty. This team is screwed. They lost KCP. This guy has done literally nothing for the Orlando Magic. And I think we were both pretty excited. At least I was, about him going to the Magic. They were going to add another dead eye shooter, a volume
Mhm.
shooter. I mean, the dude was going to make, at least 3 threes a night. He's been garbage. He's been an absolute zero for them. I mean, to the point where it's like, all right, Anthony Black, you want to take some threes? Like, are you ready to do that? Sure. Come on in. I mean, I think it's talk about silver linings. Their signing being bad, I think they're needing to rely on Anthony Black. He had a really good night last night, and I think they're going to need more of that. They're going to need Anthony Black to really level up to make up for what KCP is obviously not right now. Could be early goings of the season, but it's not looked good for him.
Yeah, he's obviously still fit in well defensively, so obviously that's probably why there's not as much kind of chatter about it. And I guess probably in the same sense that the Magic have kind of been maybe a bit slept on over the last few weeks since Paolo went down after he was making such a hot start. So I'd say that's probably why it's gone under the radar. But you're definitely right. It's not just that he's only having a slight impact on 3 point shooting. He's having no impact, and arguably maybe even a negative impact. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's gotten to that level. Like they were what, the worst 3 point shooting team in the NBA last year. They were close to that anyway, and they're pretty much similar in a similar sort of area this year. And like that's something that KCP was meant to help out a lot with, and he's going the other way. So yeah, definitely a concerning start. We know still early in the season. You hope maybe by this time next month we're talking about this in a different light. But yeah, there's something a little bit up with KCP's shot. I don't know if it's just the looks that he's getting or what it is, but yeah, that's been a disappointing. And if that continues, it's going to start to look like a bit of a flop of a signing, you know?
Yeah, it's gonna be flop the signing. There'll be more talk about, all right, what kind of trades do the Magic need to make to get in a shooter? That's a big thing they need to fix, because this is no longer a rebuilding team. This is a team that's ready to contend. They're a team that's ready to make a deep push into the playoffs, and they know who they are and what they need. And if 3 point shooting is still it, those trade rumors are going to come up. So let's talk about a few of them here. Don't have anything on the Magic, but I think you wanted to talk about a trade. And we've been itching, bro. We haven't talked about trades for 2 weeks. I think that it's personal growth from us. We're not following the typical flow of modern day NBA talk, trading everyone, team building, all that nonsense. But let's hear it. What do we got?
This is one that just crossed my mind yesterday. It was reported by The Athletic that the Nets are reportedly willing to listen to offers for Cam Thomas.
For sure. As
They
if
did
they weren't
not.
already.
They didn't. Yeah, they didn't agree an extension with him. They're willing to listen to offers. And as soon as I saw that, I thought this is the guy that the Golden State Warriors need to target.
Yeah. Wait, sorry. Cam Johnson or Cam Thomas?
Cam Thomas.
Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas. Okay. All right. Cam Johnson has been on my mind as a plug and play 3 and D player that any team in the league could get on like a pretty decent contract. I was not thinking about Cam Thomas. That's interesting. You got late. You said Lakers?
No, Golden State.
Golden State. No. Why? No.
They need a second
Dang.
option.
No.
But that's
No.
the biggest thing that
No.
the Warriors do not have right now. They don't have a second scoring option. They don't have a
That's
secondary
terrible.
creator.
I think
They
Cam
could
Thomas
get
would
him on the
ruin that.
cheap.
That would ruin them.
How would he ruin
Would
them?
ruin them. Dude, okay, what does Golden State do amazingly right now? They move the ball so well, they share the ball so well. The ball doesn't stick anywhere. Like it's constant movement, it's constant rescreening, it's constant cutting. Like Cam Thomas would like the second you insert him into that lineup, he's going to kill
You
them.
don't think a guy like Cam Thomas can show growth?
No,
You don't think he could fill the Jordan Poole role of 2022?
I don't think they want a Jordan Poole on this team. That's why they sent him away.
That's not the point. They need a secondary scorer, and I think they could get him. I would say it's on the cheap.
Mhm.
I think they don't have to give up any player talent. They could give up Lindy Waters the third and Guy Santos. They probably would have to include a first rounder,
Yes,
which obviously is something they probably wouldn't want to do. But I think it's worth it. We obviously disagree here. I think it could be the right move for this team because it's a legit scoring option that they definitely need. It's one that they could get. I think that's a relatively cheap move. They aren't locked into him. He's obviously it's an expiring deal. They could even look, I say, if they're not totally sold on him, look to try and get a Jalen Green type extension for him that makes him still a tradable asset. That's kind of the way, if you're the Warriors, to make that move to try and play it. I think that's a fit for them. They need this second option. It's like Kuminga is like it by default right now, and he's just not really it. His numbers are obviously down across the board.
Yeah.
They need that other option. It's very noticeable. I know the Warriors are doing really well, but it's really noticeable when Steph Curry is not on the floor. They just don't have that next guy. And I think they need a guy like Cam Thomas. And I think that deal is there to be done. And to take it to the next level, if they wanted to expand on this, they could look to get Finney Smith in on this deal and do a Cam Thomas, Finney Smith double. They'd obviously have to include Jalen Wilson in this just to make the money work. Then they could get rid of DeAnthony Melton, who could arguably be out for the season with the sprained ACL, and they could use this time to move off Jonathan Kuminga.
Yes, I think if someone called the Warriors and gave them a more ideal fit for Jonathan Kuminga, who's constantly, I think it's square peg, round hole type thing. I think he's done for his role, he's done well over the past couple of seasons for I think what ultimately his skill set should be. And I don't think that he fits squarely into what they like to do. But I also have that fear in terms of what you're getting from Cam Thomas, that same thing. And I think that the offensive ecosystem of the Warriors right now is flourishing more than it has really in like 2 years, truly. It's the offense hasn't hummed this well. And same with the defense, like the defenses looks good too. Like on both ends of the floor, that they're flowing well. And I would hate to see a move that would change that in a negative way. But it's undoubtedly true that having a go-to scorer is something they just simply don't have besides Steph Curry. They don't have that. I think if they're going to balk at the idea of Zach LaVine, then I can't imagine how they could even possibly justify Cam Thomas.
Cheap.
That's right. Cheaper,
yes. Way cheaper.
Cheaper.
That's how they could consider it. It's way cheaper.
Is it cheaper?
Let's not forget that the main reason people are balking at Zach LaVine is because of his contract.
Yes, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, Andrew Wiggins has played better this season, so it's harder to you go back and forth on Andrew Wiggins on okay, like this guy in the playoffs is gonna be huge on the defensive end. But I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I don't like it. I don't hate it. I don't like it. I don't think the Nets love getting I mean, if they are getting a first round pick from the Warriors for Cam Thomas, I mean they say yes. Do the Warriors want to jettison a first round pick for Cam Thomas? I think they got to really think highly of him. I'm not sure.
I
Jordan
think
Poole
they can
2.0
be.
would
I
be
think
a shocking development.
I think he can be. I think they can be aggressive with their picks. They have their first rounder in 6 of the next 7 years.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
I think they got to be willing to be aggressive with these first rounders, and I think especially in the ones coming up.
Yeah.
So if they're thinking about, I'm thinking in the next, they got to give up their picks in like the next two for the next 2 or 3 years. They don't want to be giving up the later ones when maybe Steph is gone. That'd be a mistake. So they thinking maybe a 2026 first or a 2027 first. That's kind of the area they should be looking to move a pick from there.
Yeah. I mean, if there is one team in this league that looks at Jonathan Kuminga and thinks, I see some Jalen Johnson there. I see a guy like you just need to give him more opportunity and he could be a more of a go-to guy. You call that deal should be made as soon as possible, you know. Um, but on his expiring, like a lot of teams are just going to be like, I'll just wait.
Yeah.
I'll just wait. I'll get him on the cheap if he doesn't do well at the end of the season. And I don't have to deal with the headache of having to bid. I'll just bid in the off season. But um, what another guy that I've heard something about, another big guy. We've seen Donovan Clingan. You were a believer, and then you released him. You released him for your fantasy team. He's no longer on your fantasy team. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, yeah.
I
He,
don't know
he
what
had kind
happened.
of he had a few blanks, and then all of a sudden he goes off for like 17, 12, and 8 blocks, and I was just like,
Oh
oh
my
crap.
God. So getting some minutes now with the in being out, he's in terms of blocks per block rate, top five. And he looks like it. He looks like a Rudy Gobert kind of player, legitimately. Um, and this is going to lead to some more questions because so did Bob Williams. Bob Williams looks good. Time Lord looked good. And the
Make him
Trailblazers,
sound so old, call him Bob Williams.
Bob Williams. I love calling him Bob. But Ayton has always been I mean, at least to us, at least to me, like kind of a known quantity that never made sense for the Blazers and their timeline. It never made sense with their roster construction. He was just, I mean, it was an asset grab. So he's a big that's going to be available. And I've read some rumors about if the Charlotte Hornets, with their complete lack of a front court, if they could take advantage of this and would they make a move? Is that a move that would make sense? They don't have Mark Williams I mean, they haven't had Mark Williams like since like the second month of his rookie season, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm so disappointed with that. I think he could have been such a player, but it looks like the injuries are going to be too much. And there's a lot of back injuries as well, which is just so hard to
Never,
recover from.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so would Ayton make sense there? Because he's not going to move the needle a ton defensively. He's going to move the needle a lot in terms of their size and the rebounding, a little bit more skill. Face-up game, they don't really have a lot of that. Taj Gibson is what their most reliable big when Nick Richards is out. Um, does that entice you at all?
Yes. I'm never going to go crazy over DeAndre Ayton, but you'd like to think they could probably strike a pretty reasonable deal. I think the value of Ayton is dropping, and I think that could work. That could work in Charlotte's favor.
I wouldn't be shocked if I saw a deal ultimately that happened and it was like salary, a decent player, and like 2 second rounders. I'm not sure what the value of Ayton is right now. Like
Yeah, I think
I
it could be
mean,
something like that.
like they could honestly wait until there's a panic trade. Their
Mhm.
trade deadline is going to be the time to make it. Like they're not going to make a deal right now. No one's going to make a deal this early. Teams rarely ever do it. Um, but at the deadline, there's going to be a team that has too many injuries and they have the salary to match. And if the Hornets are still in this position and they just do not have a big and they're firmly in the 10th seed, they could be a team to be like, hey, we got to push. We
Yeah,
got to we're trying to become a functional team right now. We can't just piss away another season. Um, or you look at the team like I mean, I don't know that if the Pelicans would do that, but I mean they're talking maybe Robert Williams. This guy is still playing, but I'm continuously monitoring these bigs in the Blazers, and in terms of impact, is Ayton the third best big there? If Donovan Clingan is this good already?
Kind of, yeah. 'Cause, like, yeah. Like one thing I will say is that trade will throw a spanner in the works for the Lakers because I think the Lakers need to target Robert Williams. I know you can't rely on his injuries. I know for a fact the Lakers will trade for him and instantly get injured. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But getting him over Valanciunas would be so huge. If the Lakers go and get Valanciunas, I give up on Rob Pelinka. I was already giving up on him before, but if they go and get Valanciunas instead of Robert Williams, that would be such a mistake for them.
I yeah. I mean, I get it. It feels like what would they be going for? Like they don't need Valanciunas. They don't need him on the interior.
No,
They don't need that interior presence. He's a better scorer, much better scorer than Bob Williams.
they don't need a
But they need the
scorer.
defense.
They need a defense, a guy
They
who's
need
like
the
your
defense.
defensive, like obviously he'd be more of the defensive hub when AD is off the floor, but also you could see some lineups where they're both playing, and that would make a huge difference to the Lakers defensively.
Yeah, that would be unfair. That would be almost too much. Couple more trade rumors. Houston, would you possibly envision this? And I can't believe this is from ESPN. This isn't even just some like dark corner of Twitter, like one guy with 5 followers posting the sources said. The rumor is Michael Porter Jr. and Zeke Naji for Dillon Brooks and Jabari Smith. Um, does that immediately put a bad taste in your mouth? You just kind of like just spit it out. Gross. No, absolutely not. Or you're thinking the wheels are turning.
I'm thinking about that. I mean,
Ugh. I've puked in my mouth.
I
No.
mean,
Houston says no. They've got to say no. That's terrible. That's terrible. I know their offense is struggling, but no way.
yeah, I mean, it's not that horrible with all the young guys they have and all the players they have, and they're not giving up any of the ones that are really stand out. They're giving up Dillon Brooks and Jabari Smith. It's not horrendous. Taking back Zeke Naji, yeah, that's horrible. But yeah,
Awful.
I guess in terms of the fact that it's a conference to conference deal, then I definitely shut it down.
Yeah, that and I think this whole thing is predicated on the panic that you're assuming the Rockets have over their current shooting slump, and that you assume that MPJ would be a cure-all for that. And I think that a guy like him would definitely really improve their three-point shooting. And I think if you got Brooks out of there, you're going to maybe smooth things out a little bit and make the rotation make a little bit more sense. And that could be a benefit. But getting back Naji, that's the part
Yeah,
of like, dude,
that's
this
tough.
guy can't play basketball right now. Like, or hasn't played real basketball in the last like year and a half.
In my mind, that could be an equally terrible deal for both teams if it was actually to go down.
I mean, dude, Jabari Smith is a guy. Is a top 3 pick
Mm-hmm.
and a guy who is still an unfinished product. And yeah, I think you could say Houston's got a lot of unfinished projects. You're going to finish all of them? Here, why don't we finish that for you? No, like I think that the onus is on Houston to extract the most value from guys that maybe they're envisioning may not be part of the long-term picture, and that's still a piece of this puzzle that's got to be put together by the end of this season. I think, especially with the emergence of Tari Eason, added some questions. But this idea, it's like, hey, you got too many toys to play with. Like, why don't you just let me hold that? Like, no, like they're not gonna just give away a guy like Jabari Smith. Their executives drafted him with the belief that he'd be a elite, top tier defender and a high volume 3-point shooter. And in their minds, they're like, hey, dude, at the end of next season, I could see Jabari Smith being a far better player than Michael Porter Jr. I think he's an unfinished product that they would say, like, dude, I think MPJ for Jabari Smith and some stuff would make even more sense for us. Obviously, the money doesn't work, but in terms of like actual value.
Yeah, the big thing with me is, in my mind, Houston aren't going to do anything unless it's like top tier star level.
Exactly.
That's what I'm thinking when it comes to
Yeah.
Houston.
Yeah. And the Giannis rumors are already coming up, but bro, like there's that would have to be cataclysmic, and we haven't reached cataclysmic yet. We're at DEFCON 1, but no nukes have been launched. I don't think we'll be there at any point. But I think that wraps up it. We don't have any more trade rumors lingering around. I wouldn't give any credence to the Lakers trying to dangle
D'Lo.
D'Lo.
That was pretty funny. That tweet you did, that was whoever tweeted that out, that was top tier work from
So
him.
to sum up the tweet, there was some sources putting out that Lakers are reluctant to trade D'Angelo Russell, that he's an important part of their team, and someone quote tweeted it and said, this is like a mom eating her vegetables in front of her kids, being like, these vegetables are real good. We don't want you to eat all the vegetables. Like, get out of here. Get out of here. It's hilarious.
Yeah, this guy that we're desperately
Tweet
looking
of
to
the week.
trade we actually don't want to trade him anymore. Even
Yeah,
though he's been
never
so
mind, guys.
mid.
We don't want to go there.
Been so mid,
We
but all of a
cancel this.
sudden we don't want to trade him anymore. No, that was good work. But yeah, no, I think that's gonna do it. Always fun to get into a few trade rumors, even around these times when there's no trades going down. It's always fun to see guys that that could be linked. But yeah, man, maybe Cam Thomas on the Warriors, maybe DeAndre Ayton to the Hornets. Yeah, that's hey, don't be shocked if those deals go down. It could happen. It could happen. That's gonna do it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for listening. Chris, thank you for joining me. Remember, we're ever on social media at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Peace out.